Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to The Human Element. My name's Nicole Wales. I'm the founder and managing director of Human Tribe and your host for the Human Element series. Today we're here to talk about how to create a great place to work. Now when I say great place to work, what comes to mind? Is it things like cool office fit outs with ping pong tables or a NutriBullet? Or is it things like, some benefits like yoga classes or catered lunches on a Wednesday? Or is it something more simple like workplace flexibility? The truth is that great places to work, sure, they might have some things like this, but it's so much more than an awesome office fit out or a unique benefit. A great place to work is about those everyday relationships. It's about things like trust and purpose. Today I'm here with two subject matter experts that certainly know a lot about creating a great place to work. So first of all, we have Louise Broekman, the founder and chair of the HR Coach Research Institute and the managing director of HR Coach International. Also joining us is Kellie Egan. Now, Kellie is the Human Resources Director for Atlassian Australia and Asia Pacific. And if you didn't already know, Atlassian were named the best place to work in Australia in 2014 and 2015. Welcome, ladies, to the Human Element.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for not only your time for being here today, but also your generosity in sharing your knowledge with our audience. I have absolutely no doubt that they're going to learn a lot from both of you today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So what I'd really like to start with is employee engagement. It's often a term that's a bit synonymous with a great place to work. So I want to start with the basics. What are we talking about when we say employee engagement?
I think it's sometimes make it too complex and academic about what it is, but really in my mind it's about when a group of people really want to contribute, they want to go beyond the job and turn up to work to be part of a community, creating something together. And when someone wants to do something and wants to give, rather than I'm just here to do my job, that's when they're really engaged. They're in the moment. And I think if you bring it back down to what the basics are, I'm coming to work, whether they like their job or not, but they're there, they're wanting to contribute and say, I am here right now and I'm wanting to give, not just do my job and go home. Yeah.
I think, like you, I think you can overthink the term engagement. There's a lot of research definitions on it as well. And for me, simply, it's about the radar and the change of how passionate someone is in coming to work. And it's understanding that radar, whether someone's perhaps actively disengaged up to highly engaged. And also understanding, I think, their commitment to an organisation that they're working for. And that passion and the motivation as well. I think in addition to that, I think Dan Pink's written a great book on Drive where he talks about the motivational levels. And he refers to things like the mastery, autonomy and purpose. Yes. And I think when you think about it in those terms, are you doing the best with your craft at your work? Are you actually engaged with making decisions and aligned to the goals? And are you feeling a connection to the greater purpose of a company? And looking at those three aspects as well, I think, to me, really sort of demonstrates that's what engagement's really all about.
And do you think employee engagement, and it might be a redundant question, but I've got to throw it out there, is it just for organisations that have big budgets, or can it be for any industry with potentially low skilled or low paid workers? Is this conversation still relevant for all different industries?
All business sizes, absolutely, and all different jobs as well. If you work with purpose, that really is so closely aligned with engagement. And it's engagement as a group, not just on an individual level. It's really difficult to have an employee engagement when only one person's engaged and not the others. Yeah. So you look at it at retention on an individual level, you look at engagement as a group, as a tribe. Okay. Yeah.
So if I'm a business owner, why should I look at measuring my employee engagement?
I think it's helpful to prioritise what you're actually doing in a business that you believe will have an impact on employees, and not everything you do will. So I think that's an important aspect. I think it's great just to work in a business where everyone is really excited to be there and really happy and enthusiastic and giving that little bit extra and that care that you mentioned as well. So I think that makes it exciting. But then seeing like how that translates and flows on, whether it be to when people go home at the end of the day to their family and friends and are excited to talk about where they work, or, you know, you can talk about the customers and the shareholders, but I think it's often a lot more and broader than that as well.
Yeah, I think measurement is critical for business. You can't manage something if you don't measure it. And you think about it, most businesses will have a business plan, a marketing plan and a finance plan, but its biggest cost in most organisations is its people, and its biggest headache is its most people. Its biggest missed opportunity is its people. So you measure everything else. Why don't you measure engagement? And we've been doing a lot of research on this since 2008 through to now, where we're actually measuring over 500 organisations and 26,000 employees. And you can see the difference between a high-performing organisation and a low-performing one through a measurement system. Now, you can't, if you're not measuring it, you don't know how your employees link to the bottom line of your business. So I think just even as a business discipline, measurement is the way that if you want to proactively drive your strategy through your people, you've got to measure it.
And it's interesting on the metric, working with a range of different companies before, I think there's been a huge emphasis on the tool and the metric that's actually being used. And I think when I'm looking at some smaller businesses, it's thinking about it in terms of understanding the data and the information, but it may not be actually going out there and using a huge big product and tool that many big companies are using. You can easily sort of do your own survey to understand what the key issues are and what you need to work on to drive that forward, because often I find it's very much about the execution. So what do you do with that information? And then where do you take it next? And that's where I know many employees have been hesitant to actually provide or respond to the surveys and questions, because they start to think, is it really driving any change? Is it creating anything different for me? So it's really about, I think, aligning the two together.
I couldn't agree more. Often I've worked or seen organisations that go to the effort of the time and the investment of measuring their engagement and then do nothing with it. And there's almost nothing worse. You're almost better off not measuring
It
in
creates
the first
dissatisfaction.
place. And even less engagement. Louise, a question for you. Sometimes I work with businesses that go, look, I know my engagement's low, I don't need to measure it. I know I have a response, but I would love to hear from you. What would you say to those businesses that are clear that, this needs work? Why measure first?
Well, you're going to look really good in 12 months' time, aren't you? So you've got to start somewhere. And if you are really honest with yourself, I think the workplaces, employers and employees, there's a bit of a power shift that's happening, and it's really important to be real in the workplace. And if you take the step and say, look, I own my situation with my business and I'm proud that we're actually doing something about it. Take it while you're feeling on your low, because you know it's only going to go up from there if you do something about it. So if it's low, you know what you're dealing with and you're able to prioritise it without having to guess it and then saying, I'm going to wait for 12 months' time and then I'm going to measure it. You're just guessing at what you're going to be doing. So by measuring it, you're able to then say, where do we put our resources, especially the smaller the business, the less resources you've got. So you've got to put your money or your efforts into the areas that really count. And you only know the areas that really count when you actually go and do get that feedback, put numbers around it so you can prioritise it in the right way. I mean,
Kellie, I guess what I wanted to ask you, because obviously Atlassian is very well known for being a great place to work and has been regarded like that for a fair amount of time now, and overseas as well. I think you're in the top 5 in the US for great places to work as well. Why continue to measure this when you are doing so well? What's the business case for that?
For us, we're growing significantly, at least 40% year on year. And with that, we need to be able to attract a number of people globally to come and work for us. And, recognising some of the challenges of, cost of living in Sydney and attracting global talent, for us, it's really important for that growth aspect and retaining people, obviously, as well, when, we could easily have people look at opportunities abroad in San Francisco, etc. there. So, and we all love working in a place, I think, that, just has that great place to work feel about it. So, and I think people have a sense of pride to work there as well, not only about the product, but about the company and people who they work with, which I think is important too.
Can I ask, is there still things to work on at Atlassian? Because is there always something that you can be working on more?
Totally. Yeah, we always have. I mean, I think there's more than half of our leaders have actually been with us less than a year.
Wow.
So, and a lot of them are in stretch roles.
Yeah.
I think for a while there, we had like 80% of our leaders were in the biggest roles of their lives. So when you come across your leader for the first time, they're still experimenting and working out what's going to work well with this team, what kind of leader am I, and often they're the biggest influences on engagement and, creating that really dynamic culture within the team. So, and trying to have, limited resources to help them, such as roles like myself, it's a great opportunity, but there's still a lot of work we need to do to invest in our leaders, and we offer a lot more training coming forward now, but there's still plenty of opportunities and plenty of gaps.
That's so beautifully refreshing to hear that, even an organisation at the top of your game recognise there's still more work to do. So, brilliant.
But everyone's everyone's moving forward and at the edge of their own knowledge. How exciting that the organisation's growing, but all the managers are growing as well, and their future's ahead of them. That's
and it's
so
good,
exciting.
like topics like this, I think, great place to work and how happy people are is something that most of our leaders, if not all, are actually really committed to, and building that trust and, that sort of positive, way of working and really open with communication. So the little things we seem to do well, there's some just bigger opportunities, I think, down the track.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, ladies, we're going to take a short break. My name's Nicole Wales. You've been watching The Human Element, and we'll be back with you shortly. Hello and welcome back to The Human Element. Today we're talking about how to create a great place to work, and we've got Kellie and Louise here. Welcome back, ladies. So now I'd like to talk about what are your top tips for creating a great place to work, and I'm sure you could share loads of tips here. But I guess think about, business owners that are just starting out in this potentially. What would be your top tips?
Well, I'll start from, especially from the smaller business sector, that if you're looking for engaged employees, the biggest tip is to be engaged yourself. So if you're not engaged with your own business, you're not excited and focused, you can't expect anybody else to. And the second tip for me is that if you're wanting to fast track engagement, really get everybody focused on the business and the purpose of the business, focus on the customer, focus on the client. And we have seen this through our data that when an organisation is focused on the client, it fast tracks employee engagement. So focus on your own engagement, focus on engaging your clients, then engagement of employees will automatically follow. It's pretty cool.
There's a lot of research around now about customer centricity or customer centric cultures, which definitely talks to what you're talking about.
It's creating a business community from within and also outside, and you're working together and collaborating with your clients rather than treating them as a separate entity, and it really focuses people on the things that matter. So when you're wanting to implement change or do things internally and to have employees engaged on that, it gives it purpose and it gives it focus rather than saying we need to improve it. It means you've got to push change versus when you focus on the client, it pulls the change and people want to do it for a reason.
And it's more than just about profits or bottom line results then. It
gives it meaning,
I love it. What do you think, Kellie?
I think for us at least, it starts with the values. And we did a lot of work, way back at the early stages, a couple of years in, early 2003, 2004, and actually had our employees actually come up with, if you were to go to Mars and you're basically starting a new planet, what would be, some people you'd think of taking with you? And then they started talking about what those common characteristics would be. So it was like a little gameplay that they actually did, and then came up, and so everyone basically came up with these core values that actually still exist today.
Wow.
We've had a number of attempts to review them, but for us they actually are so meaningful and different to what I've seen operate in other places where they're lived in everything we actually do, from the products that we use, our team meetings, to questioning people. So one of our values is open company, no BS. And that comes up.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.